County judge has ruled Washington's ban on high-capacity magazines is unconstitutional, but the law will remain in effect for now. Fox 12's Mia Villanueva joins us now live with deep developments on this legal battle. Mia, good morning.
Shanna, good morning. So that law will remain in effect while the state appeals that ruling that came down yesterday. The state filed an emergency appeal through the Supreme Court after that ruling came down, and that appeal was granted. But since July of 2022, it has been illegal under state law to make, distribute, or sell gun magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammo, with limited exceptions. Supporters of the law believe it could help reduce bloodshed in mass shootings because people could have the chance to escape or stop a shooter in the time it takes to reload a gun. However, critics call it a violation of the constitutional right to bear arms. A judge ruled in favor of critics yesterday, saying the law violates both the state and U.S. constitutions. The decision is related to a lawsuit State Attorney General Bob Ferguson filed under Gators Law, against Gators Law rather. That's a store in Kelso. It sold high-capacity magazines after that ban took effect. After yesterday's ruling, Ferguson filed an emergency appeal to the state Supreme Court. Again, that appeal was granted, so the ban on high-capacity magazines will stay in place for now. For now, reporting live, I'm Mia Villanueva. Good day, Oregon.
Mia.